He called himself the Great Beast, claimed communion with demons, and lived a life of unrepentant depravity. Aleister Crowley was not just a man. He was a walking enigma, a nightmare come to life, and a self-proclaimed prophet of a new world order. Yet behind the sinister persona lay a mind obsessed with the boundaries of human potential, a magician whose works still inspire, terrify, and intrigue. Was he a misunderstood genius or the villain he so willingly embraced? Let me explain. Crowley's life began in an environment that seemed anathema to the man he would become. Born in 1875 to a wealthy and devout Christian family, he was baptized Edward Alexander Crowley. His parents were members of the Plymouth Brethren, an ultra-conservative religious sect. This strict upbringing planted the seeds of rebellion early in his heart. When his father, a preacher, died of cancer, Crowley was just 11 years old. His grief quickly turned into disdain for the religion his father had upheld. He would later write that Christianity stank of death. By his teenage years, Crowley was deliberately challenging societal norms. He indulged in what he called sin for sin's sake, openly flouting religious and moral codes. From the start, Crowley saw himself as destined for something greater than the mundane lives of those around him. "I was in revolt against the universe itself," he once proclaimed. But this rebellion was not merely an adolescent tantrum. It was a philosophical stance, one he would build an entire spiritual empire upon. In 1904, Crowley experienced what he described as a supernatural event in Cairo, Egypt. He claimed that a being named Aiwass dictated to him the Book of the Law, the cornerstone of his religious philosophy, Thelema. The central tenet of this belief system, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," became a mantra for rebellion against traditional morality. Yet it wasn't a license for chaos. Crowley believed it was a call for individuals to discover and live out their true purpose or true will. Critics called it blasphemy. Crowley called it liberation. He declared himself a prophet, the harbinger of a new aeon of Horus, an age where individual freedom would reign supreme. But his self-deification didn't end there. Crowley would go on to adopt titles like the Beast 666, embracing the role of the villain in the Christian narrative. Some saw Thelema as little more than a narcissist philosophy cloaked in mysticism. Others found its message of self-empowerment profound. Either way, Thelema became a lightning rod for controversy. Crowley's work in the occult was as innovative as it was unnerving. He joined the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a secretive group dedicated to the practice of ceremonial magic. But his presence was divisive. His hedonistic lifestyle and refusal to adhere to hierarchy led to conflicts with other members, including renowned poet W.B. Yeats. Undeterred, Crowley established his own magical orders, the most famous being the Argentium Astrum, and therefore, and later, his involvement with the Ordo Templi Orientis, OTO. Within these circles, he developed rituals involving sex magic, believing that sexual energy was a powerful force for achieving enlightenment. His writings on magic, voluminous and complex, combined ancient rituals with his own innovations. Crowley was not merely dabbling. He was reconstructing the occult from the ground up. He described magic as the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. For his followers, he was a genius. For outsiders, he was a charlatan. "Every man and every woman is a star," he wrote, suggesting that human potential was limitless. But for those who dared to cross him, Crowley showed no mercy. He weaponized his intellect to humiliate detractors and reveled in his role as a provocateur. Crowley's personal life was as shocking as his work. He indulged in behaviors that even today would raise eyebrows: drug use, promiscuity, and bizarre rituals involving blood and sacrifice. His libertine lifestyle wasn't just about personal pleasure. It was a philosophical rejection of societal norms. At his abbey of Thelema in Cefalu, Sicily, Crowley sought to create a utopia where his teachings could be practiced freely. What unfolded was more dystopia than paradise. Stories of animal sacrifices, drug-fueled orgies, and bizarre ceremonies made headlines. When a follower died under mysterious circumstances, Mussolini's government expelled Crowley from Italy. The press, never shy about sensationalizing, dubbed him the wickedest man in the world. Crowley embraced the title. "I want blasphemy, murder, rape, revolution, anything bad or good but strong," he once wrote. Whether these were the words of a true villain or a man playing the part, they solidified his dark legend. Though Crowley died penniless and largely forgotten in 1947, his influence has only grown. In the 1960s, the counterculture movement rediscovered his work. Rock stars like Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin and Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones incorporated Crowleyan imagery into their music. The Beatles even included him on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Today, Crowley's writings remain a cornerstone for modern occultists. His philosophy of self-determination resonates with those seeking to escape the constraints of traditional religion and societal norms. Yet his legacy is far from benign. Critics argue that his emphasis on personal will above all else can lead to selfishness and moral ambiguity. Separating the man from the myth is no easy task. Was Crowley truly in contact with otherworldly beings, or was he a master storyteller? Did his rituals genuinely harness supernatural power, or were they elaborate theater? The answers may never be clear. What is certain is that Crowley wanted to be remembered, whether as a hero or a villain. "I have never grown out of the infantile belief that the universe was made for me to suck," he once wrote. He lived by his own rules, indifferent to the opinions of others. His writings are dense with coded language, riddles, and references to obscure texts. Some see this as evidence of his genius. Others view it as obfuscation. Regardless, his works continue to be studied, debated, and practiced. Crowley's life is a paradox, a cautionary tale wrapped in a declaration of human potential. He rejected morality, yet sought enlightenment. He claimed to serve higher powers, yet reveled in his own ego. For true crime lovers, his story is a reminder that the darkest figures often walk the line between genius and madness. In the end, Crowley achieved what he set out to do. He became immortal, not in the literal sense, but in the way his ideas and image endure. Whether you see him as a misunderstood visionary or a dangerous lunatic, one thing is undeniable. Aleister Crowley was history's oddest figure. His life forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of good and evil, the limits of human freedom, and the cost of living outside society's rules. And perhaps that's the most unsettling thing of all. The man who proclaimed, "I am the snake that giveth knowledge and delight and bright glory," might have been the greatest trickster of them all. Or perhaps, just perhaps, he was something more. Aleister Crowley's life defies easy categorization. Was he a misunderstood genius, a spiritual pioneer, or a self-absorbed provocateur who reveled in his notoriety? The answer, as with so much about him, is maddeningly elusive. What is undeniable is the profound impact he left behind, a legacy as complex, chaotic, and contradictory as the man himself. Crowley was a product of rebellion, both against the restrictive Christian environment of his youth and the broader moral codes of his time. In rejecting conventional norms, he created his own system of spirituality, Thelema, which exalted personal will above all else. To his followers, this philosophy was liberating, a call to discover one's true purpose and live in harmony with it. To his critics, however, it was nothing more than self-indulgent hedonism cloaked in mystical jargon. His personal life mirrored his teachings. Crowley reveled in excess, embracing drugs, sexual exploration, and rituals that shocked the sensibilities of early 20th century society. He was as much a provocateur as he was a spiritual leader, cultivating an image that blurred the line between man and myth. His embrace of titles like the Great Beast and 666 made him a target of moral outrage, but it also ensured he would be remembered long after his death. Crowley's influence extended far beyond his lifetime, seeping into the cultural zeitgeist in ways he may not have anticipated. The countercultural movements of the 1960s and 70s latched onto his teachings, viewing him as a symbol of defiance against conformity. Musicians, artists, and writers drew inspiration from his work, perpetuating his mystique and introducing his ideas to new audiences. Today, his writings remain a cornerstone of modern occultism, and his life continues to fascinate true crime enthusiasts and spiritual seekers alike. Yet, for all his influence, Crowley's life is also a cautionary tale. His relentless pursuit of personal freedom often came at the expense of others, and his relationships were frequently marked by manipulation and cruelty. His utopian experiments, like the Abbey of Thelema, descended into chaos, leaving a trail of disillusioned followers and scandalized onlookers. Even in his later years, Crowley seemed unable or unwilling to reconcile his visionary ambitions with the human cost of his actions. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of Crowley's life is the ambiguity that surrounds it. His claims of supernatural contact, his experiments in magic, and his declarations of divine purpose remain unprovable yet tantalizing. Did he truly tap into otherworldly forces, or was he a brilliant showman who believed his own myth? The truth, like much of Crowley's life, lies in the shadows. In the end, Aleister Crowley achieved what few others have. He became a legend. Whether you see him as a prophet of liberation, a dark manipulator, or a tragic figure consumed by his own ego, his story demands attention. Crowley forced the world to confront questions about morality, freedom, and the boundaries of human potential, questions that remain as relevant today as they were in his time. His legacy is a testament to the power of the individual to shape their destiny, for better or worse, and a reminder of the thin line between genius and madness. Aleister Crowley was not merely a man. He was an idea, an enigma, and a warning. And in the end, that may be the most enduring magic of all.